Hi, this is Dave Specter here at SPACE in Evanston, and I'm thrilled to have as my guest tonight as part of our Space Artist interview series, Duke Robillard. Duke, welcome back.
Great to be here, Dave.
Good to see you again. Looking forward to hearing you. I know you've got a new record out, Calling All Blues, and I know you've got a lot of great projects recently, and also I want to touch on your career going back to the 60s, helping found Roomful of Blues in 67.
That's correct.
Yeah. And one of the great little big bands in American roots music that's still going strong.
Yes, they are.
And I was kind of curious in the 60s how, I assume you were a teenager?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. How did a teenage kid in the 60s develop an interest in jump blues and big band music?
Well, it started with just blues, and because we had the Newport Folk Festival, some of my friends that had gone before me when I was like a junior in high school had told me about it and turned me on to records of Muddy and Wolf and Elmore James and Little Walter and all of those people. And the following year I went and I got to see Muddy Waters and Son House and a lot of, just the classic masters of the music. And so for a few years I was playing Chicago blues along with more urban blues like B.B. King and Albert and Freddie King style. And then I happened upon an album, because I would go record hunting all the time, an album called Rock and Roll by the Buddy Johnson Orchestra, which was really a big band playing rhythm and blues. And that album just changed my life because they had several vocalists. Buddy's sister Ella Johnson sang, Buddy sang, and then he had some of the other guys in the band that sang, and they had the big band and the horns, and it swung. It was great dance music, but it was blues, and it had the added attraction of the saxes and all the different vocalists. So I kind of used that as a model, and I said, this is what I want to do from here. And that's when I started adding the horns, and I added Rich Lataille and Greg Piccolo, both on tenor sax first, and then when Doug James came into town, we heard about him, and we got him and auditioned him, and then we started with the three saxes, and for quite a few years we went on just as, the rhythm plus three saxophones.
Now, I know I had the first Roomful of Blues record, but I really started to get into you when it was Duke Robillard and the Pleasure Kings. And you started that band after you left Roomful?
Yeah. A very short time I worked with rockabilly singer Robert Gordon after Roomful, and I also did a tour and considered joining the legendary blues band. I did a tour and a couple of records with them, but I was kind of intent on having my own career at that time.
I see.
So that's where the Pleasure Kings developed.
Right. So you went from the little big band with the horns and the piano to a trio.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, quite a change there, I imagine. And then I wanted to jump to your stint with the Fabulous Thunderbirds, because I believe were you the first guitar player to replace Jimmy Vaughan?
Yeah, well, Kid Bangham and I both joined at the same time.
I see.
And it was right when Jimmy left. And Jimmy and I were good friends, and also Kim. In the rhythm section was formerly guys that worked with me with Roomful of Blues.
Right.
So it was a real natural thing, and we would both kind of do the same thing, taking blues and adding some other elements and a Louisiana or a rock and roll beat or different things into the music. So we were kind of doing similar things. So when they asked me to join, it was really a perfect fit.
Yeah. Filling Jimmy's shoes, was that did that kind of steer you in any particular direction, or did you feel any pressure? Or
I felt out of respect for the band's sound that I had to kind of lean in that direction of playing, pretty much like Jimmy, but I played like myself too. But at that time we were doing things that were pretty similar, and of course he had a big effect on me and everybody else at that point. He made just a big impression on people with the purity of his playing, So you know, it was people would ask me if it was big to fill his shoes, but I knew those guys before they were big, you know,
Sure.
so it was kind of, we were buddies, and it, you know, to other people it was a big thing to fill his shoes, you know, but to me, I mean, it was kind of a natural thing, you know.
And I imagine you knew Stevie and played with him.
Yes, I knew Stevie. I knew Stevie from the first time I went to Texas with Room Full, and he sat in with us, and I played with Stevie many times up in New England, and a few times in different places on the road. And there was even a gig where Jimmy was making the Jerry Lee Lewis movie. Great Balls of Fire.
Yeah.
And Thunderbirds had a gig that was a benefit for Toys for Tots for children in Austin. So me and Stevie were the guitar players for that gig.
Wow.
It was really cool.
Cool. Can you tell me about the first time you played with B.B. King?
The first time I opened for B.B. King was with Roomful of Blues, and it was in the early or mid-'70s, and in Suffolk Downs in Boston. And B.B. came up to me after our set, and I hadn't met him, and he came up to me and said, you know, you remind me of my favorite guitar player, Bill Jennings. And I went, whoa, you know, of course, I didn't know what to do. I almost passed out, you know, B.B. King saying that to me. So we got to know each other quite well, and, you know, later on I got to play with him several times on stage. Once at the Hall of Fame, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, where they had a tribute to Lou Jordan, and I was on it, and he was on it.
I wanted to talk about a young, up-and-coming singer-songwriter you've been working with on and off for many years, named Bob Dylan. I know the first time I heard you with Dylan on record was on Time Out of Mind.
Yeah, that was the first time I worked with him.
So did you go down to New Orleans to Daniel Lanois' studio?
No, actually it was Criterion in Miami. We recorded that.
Oh, wow.
And but Lanois was the producer, and it was quite the experience. I mean, there was at least a dozen people all playing at the same time and all baffled off, and what they ended up using was maybe like 4 pieces or 5 pieces out of a dozen all playing at the same time.
Okay.
So it was kind of interesting because you didn't know what was going to get saved and what wasn't.
I see.
And you better be ready when Bob started playing a tune, you just fall in, and that could be the take. So if you noodle around and play something bad, then you're out of luck. They either don't use it or they use your mistake, you know.
Did he ever give you specific direction as to what he wanted? In the studio?
He did. 2 different things. One is that he wanted me to play, like, on this one song, he wanted me to play a solo like he heard me play when I was in the Thunderbirds, because we opened for him at the Pantages Theater. And the other thing was, it's a real long song on there, and I can't think of what it is, but there's like 25 verses or something.
Yeah.
And it's like a blues that's very kind of low key. And his instructions were that we were at a party, and I happened to have a guitar around my neck, and I should just stand there and listen, and at some point in the midst of the song, which was really long, maybe 10 minutes, that I should start slowly just playing a few things and slowly adding more and more as we went along, you know.
Yeah. That kind of makes sense based on Dylan's music. Yeah. And how did you get the call to play with Bob?
They were down there tracking, and he decided that he had wanted me. I'd been asked a few times before to audition for his band, and I wanted to stay with my own career, but I figured a record, this is the perfect thing, to make a record with him. So his management called me and said, Bob would like you to come down and be part of this record. Can you come right now?
Today, tomorrow?
Yeah, today. So I said, well, I can come tomorrow. I don't think I'm prepared to come today. So I went down the second day of the session.
Yeah, and then you've also done some touring with them?
Yes, I did one tour with him at the beginning of last year, his first tour.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did a little bit of the summer tour and then decided that it really wasn't for me.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. There's a famous Bloomfield interview where I guess Bob told Mike Bloomfield, I don't want to hear any of that B.B. King shit. Did he ever
Right.
say anything to you like that, or tell you what not to play? Or?
Well, I wished I had more direction from him
Mm-hmm.
because I would only find out as we were playing if he was unhappy with something,
Oh.
And it might come in the form of something uttered to me on stage pretty loudly. So
Okay.
I kind of said, I'm a little old for this.
Yeah.
It's fine for younger players that are building their reputation and learning. It's a great learning lesson, but I've learned my lessons.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Could you talk a little about your playing with Tom Waits?
Oh, that was a great experience. I love Tom. He's such a great guy, and he's really a blues lover. And many of his songs are really like one-chord blues. I mean, they're so based on blues, but he disguises them, very well with all his wild characters and everything. So it was really fun to play with him. I think he maybe wished I was a little crazier with my approach to playing because Mark Ribot, who plays with him a lot and has made a lot of recordings with him, he's got that kind of off-kilter sense of harmony and stuff, and approaches the music in a way that's a little, I think, more fitting for Tom. I was a little, maybe a little bit too straight, a little bit too bluesy. I mean, he enjoyed it, but it wasn't exactly what he was looking for.
Right.
I kind of had hoped it was, because it was really, we had a lot of fun doing that tour.
Duke, I wanted to ask you about your role as a producer, because I know you've been more and more active, and I know there's a new Billy Boy Arnold record that just came out that you produced. And I know you've been involved in some cool projects, some tribute projects to Les Paul that sound incredible. And I know you were just in the studio in Chicago with Otis Clay and Billy Price doing a record.
Yes.
Talk about, a lot of people ask me, and I like to ask other producers, how would you describe your role as a producer?
Well, it's different with different artists. Sometimes an artist really needs direction. Sometimes they need to be kept under control. Sometimes you just need to help them get what is their vision. Just get it out, get the right people play with them, or get the right sound, however you go about doing it. It can be really very different. But I always look at the sound role, the recording role. I don't really mess too much with people's concept of their own music unless they really need the help. You know? If they're a little lost for a direction, or maybe they're beginners in the studio and don't quite know how to approach it, then I step in and try to build it into what I think would be good for them.
I see. And talk about your new record, Calling All Blues. This is your 20th album? Or?
Well, it's more than 20, but I don't know. I lost track along the way because, they sometimes put 2 albums together and that comes out. And, so I think maybe somewhere around 25 I've done since the beginning of my solo career. And the new album is, I decided I just wanted to write a bunch of songs about just certain things in my life, and then decide how to interpret them musically. And then I got the concept of, once I took one song that was one way and I decided that it sounded best with a Memphis kind of Booker T groove, then I said, well, maybe I should make this also just music, as far as the background music being touching on different areas in different states. And so I've got some Texas kind of one chord blues. I've got a slow minor blues. I've got a couple tunes that are kind of Memphis sounding. Just quite a one, like kind of a heavy rock and roll tune.
I know you do a lot of teaching still. I know you have a video series. Is it Sonic Junction?
Sonic Junction, yes. That's a company that I signed on with to do. I do one song a month. Usually they're 4 lessons. Sometimes they're longer if it's a more complicated song. And I teach blues and swing and R&B, jump blues, things like that. You know?
I remember you had a T-Bone Walker instructional video out many years ago.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, I know I checked out, and a lot of people I know, even I was posting some stuff about the show on social media tonight, and someone said, hey, I have his T-Bone instructional video.
All right.
All right, and where can people check you out online, your website?
Just DukeRobillard.com is my website, and there's YouTube videos everywhere, you know.
Sure.
And my new album and all my recordings are always available on Amazon and you know, different whatever we have left of stores. And on my website, I have a store. So when you buy them from me, you have the option of getting them personalized and signed before we send them out. So that's
great.
Good.
One last question. Any younger artists on the blues and roots scene, even maybe jazz or swing that have opened up your ears that you're excited about?
Well, there's people that I've done some work with and have known about, like Dave Gross. He's a young guitar player who I helped produce his first album, and he's a really prolific guitar player. I mean, he can play so many different styles and loves the blues, plays blues, but he can also play swing and gypsy jazz, and also I'm a big fan of Monster Mike Welch, who my last album I had him guest on it, and we made a guitar team, and we had a lot of fun making that record, and it was just so easy to work with him. We hardly even had to talk about things, you know.
Great.
So he's great. And there's a guy over in the Netherlands, in Holland, Ray Newhouse, his name is, and he goes by Guitar Ray, and he's just any kind of roots music, from Western swing to blues to R&B to rock and roll, rockabilly. He's really a monster guitar player and a friend of mine.
Well, thanks for the tips, and thanks for the interview, Duke. Great to have you here,
Dave.
man. All right.